Okay, well, we don't have long, and we're going to do some very short introductions. Summer Mersinger, Commissioner at the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, as well as Lauren Brinati at the National Futures Association, Chief Strategy and Risk Officer. That's a big responsibility in today's world. And we're going to dive right into it because we don't have much time, and I talk really slow. So. Commissioner Mersinger, I don't think the CFTC needs an introduction anymore at this event. Most people know who the CFTC is. You have somewhat of a unique regulatory structure, and the winds are blowing in a different direction post-election for the crypto industry. And there's been a lot of talk about statutory changes, legislation. I just heard in the other room they're talking about that very same thing. Give us a little bit of a history of the CFTC's regulatory structure and how it's a bit unique.
Yeah, thank you, and I'll try to do it quickly. Because we do have a short amount of time, I'm also going to quickly say my disclaimer, which is that the views I share today are my own and not necessarily those of the Commission or my fellow CFTC commissioners. So I won't go all the way back in the history, but what I will talk a little bit about is the way we regulate our markets. We regulate the derivatives markets, and that's where we're primary regulators. Underneath those derivatives markets, usually there's some sort of cash market or a spot market. I use cattle as an example because I grew up on a cattle ranch, but we don't regulate the auction houses where you sell cattle. We regulate cattle futures and the exchanges that offer the clearing houses that clear them, the intermediaries who help farmers and ranchers access those markets. That's where we regulate. So when it comes to crypto, when people ask, well, if it's a commodity, do you regulate it? If it's most crypto falls into the commodity classification, but that doesn't mean we automatically are the regulator. We need Congress to say we would regulate that spot market. Any derivatives products we do regulate, plenty of derivatives products on crypto. And the one kind of side note to that is we have enforcement authority over cash markets where there's fraud and manipulation, and it can impact the derivatives market. So where we don't have primary, day-to-day regulatory authority, we can use our enforcement powers if there's fraud and manipulation in those underlying spot markets or cash markets. So that's why, unfortunately, you've seen where we've been most active at the CFTC in crypto has been in enforcement, because we have a little more authority there to be active in the underlying spot market. I would rather see us actually be proactive and regulate the way we do the rest of the derivatives markets, and so that's why it is important that Congress have a bill that gives us that ability in that jurisdiction. But that's kind of the breakdown of how we regulate. I think the other interesting thing is globally, a lot of times you will see that there's kind of one regulator for both securities and derivatives markets. We're unique in that there's, the SEC and the CFTC. I get that question a lot internationally. Why is it a good idea? Shouldn't you just have one agency? And I always say, well, we have the best markets in the US. So clearly, I think we got it right. And I think that's very important to remember that, there is a reason for two regulators. We both serve a purpose, and we don't want to conflate the two markets or the two regulators. That wasn't very short.
That was good. I'm going to follow up on that, though. So you have a core principles regime. That's the unique part of the CFTC structure compared to other regulators. Some in the crypto world have said, well, it's a square peg in a round hole U.S. regulatory structure. Why is it not if it's at the CFTC?
Yeah, and I think this is why a lot of people appreciate the CFTC as maybe the better regulator for the crypto space and actually just innovation generally in markets, because we have a principles-based regulatory regime, which means we don't specifically prescribe how you have to handle a risk. A lot of times it's identifying the risk, giving some principles about what should be mitigated or how you should look at it, but really giving industry the ability to meet those principles on their own terms. So, you might have, the good news is that keeps us very technology neutral. We are not prescribing what kind of technology you have to have. We're not prescribing line by line how you have to, apply to our rule or comply with our rules. We have more latitude and more flexibility. So that it fits really well with crypto because it moves so fast, because there's so much innovation. And I think the other kind of piece to this that makes us, a regulator where it makes a lot of sense to have the crypto spot market jurisdiction is that we regulate global markets. That's what we do at the CFTC. Crypto's very global. So this is what we know. We know how to act, we know how to harmonize with foreign regulators, we know how to work closely with our foreign counterparts, and we understand that we really do need to have, the ability for these markets and for the flow of funds and trading to be global in order to prevent fragmentation in the markets, to ensure they remain liquid and vibrant. So it's what we do, it's what we know, and it fits very well with the crypto markets.
Great. Lauren, we'll turn to you. NFA is probably a bit of a new name for this crowd, so tell us a little bit about who NFA is.
Thank you. And I'm going to go back a little bit in time because I do think people think, where did NFA come from? And we have to go all the way back to the Commodity Futures Trading Commission Act of 1974, which of course established the CFTC, which began operations in 1975. And congratulations on 50 years. You haven't been there, of course, the entire time. But yeah, let's clarify that. But Congress was really forward-thinking because as part of that same act, they knew that the U.S. futures and derivatives markets was going to grow. So as part of that same act, they actually included a provision for the CFTC to designate something called a registered futures association, which Congress envisioned could work hand in hand with the CFTC, partner with them to oversee the U.S. derivatives markets because they did imagine them expanding and becoming globally one day. So it took industry leaders a few years to come up with the right way to form this RFA, this Registered Futures Association. The CFTC designated NFA, National Futures Association, in 1981. We began operations in 1982. We remain the sole RFA for the derivatives industry. And we really are self-regulator. When I say that, we are fully funded by the derivatives industry. We are funded by membership fees. We are funded by transaction fees on public trading volume on U.S. derivatives exchanges. We don't take any money from taxpayers. We also are self-regulator because we have a governing body that's a board of directors, and it is mainly comprised of individuals who represent the futures industry. Our main purpose is to help the CFTC oversee the markets. We like to say that we're partners. It's a long-term partnership. NFA is going on 43 years. But we have a core mission, and it's threefold. First is to protect customers, protect investors in these markets. Second is to work with the CFTC to help ensure the integrity of these markets. And then third, and this is important too, we want to help our members comply with their regulatory responsibilities. We have about 2,850 member firms and about 38,000 who are individual members with us. And who doesn't want to be an NFA member? But here's how you actually become one. So the CFTC has huge oversight, a huge remit over the entirety of the derivatives market. There are a number of market participants, there are a number of registrants. Over time, the CFTC decided, because of NFA's customer protection mission, that certain of their registrants, FCM, CPOs, CTAs, IBs, retail foreign exchange dealers, and swap dealers, and there are some exceptions. But these intermediaries, these customer counterparty-facing entities, they should be required to be NFA members, and that would allow NFA to be the frontline regulator for these entities so that the CFTC could really properly allocate its resources to everything, including what's systemically going on with these markets. We're the frontline regulator. The CFTC has actually delegated a number of formal functions to us. One of these functions is registration of these exact entities I was talking about. As members, we of course have an examination function. NFA has its own rule book. The CFTC approves all of our rules. So we examine for compliance with our rules, the CFTC's regulations. And make no mistake, the CFTC is our formal regulatory body. They conduct formal reviews of us all of the time. But we're a true partner with them. On a daily basis, NFA staff is speaking with individual staff of the different divisions. If we're seeing new or novel issues, crypto-related issues, we're talking to each other because we want to collaboratively work together to come up with, as the commissioner said, proactive solutions so that this industry could continue to grow. We're always here to help the CFTC, and it's very similar. If there is crypto legislation, and Congress has a role for the CFTC, and the CFTC thinks there's a role for an NFA, we're ready to step in and help out in any way that we need.
Thanks, Lauren. What has been your role so far in the digital asset world?
So we have about 150 or so current NFA members that are actually engaged in crypto and spot digital asset commodities. Of course, we have members who are engaged in the derivatives that are traded on exchanges, but we have had 150 members, and we only see this membership continuing to grow. We have some native crypto swap dealers. We also have a lot of CPOs and CTAs who invest customer funds in the spot crypto market. So about 2 years ago, we thought, we really need a rule to oversee these members' activities. The CFTC, of course, has their anti-fraud, anti-manipulation authority, but for the most part, for many of these entities, we're the sole regulatory body. And we thought it was important to have a very principles-based rule that oversaw the governance of these entities. And let me make clear, it's only if they're an NFA member. But we have a rule, and it basically says, if you're an NFA member engaging in spot crypto, you cannot commit fraud. You must uphold just and equitable principles of trade. You must supervise these activities, and you must keep books and records regarding these activities. And as I said, we only see membership growing in this area. We have developed a lot of expertise. We have an internal working group. We've now been doing exams of these entities for probably 7, 8 years now. And of course, we let the CFTC know of anything that we're seeing. But if the CFTC was to be given additional jurisdiction and we would have some type of frontline role, we would want to work with the industry. We're thinking about we would form like a digital asset advisory committee to help build out what could be a new regulatory program for these spot crypto markets. It doesn't work if we try to build out a regulatory program or write rules in a vacuum. The way that effective and efficient oversight is going to work for this market is, of course, us partnering with the commission, but also working with the industry to help us find the best talent, the technology that we need, determine funding, because it would continue to be a self-regulatory organization for the industry as well. But again, we have an infrastructure in place. We have that registration system, that exam function, but our goal is to just stand at the ready for whatever the CFTC may need us for.
I think this probably is the last question, but we hear all the time the CFTC is not equipped to take on this industry. They're small. They can't do it. Is there any precedence there with swaps?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, when Congress gave us authority over the swap markets in 2010 under Dodd-Frank, we built that program out from scratch. I mean, the rules, everything had to be done, and it was a huge new market, trillions of dollars. And so we've done this before. We stand ready. And as I was listening to Lauren speak, some of those things you hear about the CFTC not being big enough. Well, it's a public-private partnership with NFA, and they have a large staff as well, and we work hand in hand doing this job. People will say we don't have enough customer protection laws. Well, we do, number one, but also NFA covers that too. So, this isn't unusual for the CFTC to get new jurisdiction. We can handle it. We stand ready. We're flexible. We're nimble. And I always get a little offended when people suggest that we couldn't handle it as a regulator. I think they've just totally missed the fact that we have done a very good job of handling very large new jurisdiction and handling it well.
Lauren, you want to add to that?
I agree. The CFTC has done a great job, whether it be the expansion of futures, whether it be retail forex, whether it be swaps, which was huge globally for the CFTC to take on and everything that they had to do. They've done a great job, and they were first to market with the rules and regulations post Dodd-Frank as well. And we're just happy to help and support the CFTC as they hopefully would get new authority in the spot crypto area.
I think that you can tell from the comments here, this is a new day. And these are two organizations that are flexible and willing to work with industry and be practical. There was a hearing on Capitol Hill yesterday about the CFTC turning 50. And one of the people that testified said the CFTC is tough but flexible. And I think from our industry's perspective, that's what we need. We need rules of the road, but we need flexibility to allow for technological innovation. And we've seen that thrive under the leadership of your two organizations. So let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you.